Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Visit the Institute of Art, Design and Technology Dunleary Open Day on Saturday the 19th of November from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. At the IDT Open Day, you can find out about our exciting new degree courses. You will get top tips on preparing your portfolio. IADT Open Day on Saturday the 19th of November. Create your future. For more information, visit iadt.ie.
Warning. Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, should be for listeners that are 18 years of older, as each episode may contain strong adult language and descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature that were told to me by the victims of the crimes or the criminals who perpetrated the crimes against the victims. Please use this as your warning. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. I'm Woody Overton, and I'll be your host. Before we get started on today's episode, I want to give a shout out to all the people who
have subscribed and listened to our first episode, which we released last Friday, and the response has been overwhelming. We really appreciate each and every one of you that have taken the time to listen to the podcast and leave us comments and responses, and it's just been awesome. We now have listeners from coast to coast in the United States, the continental United States, including Hawaii and Alaska, and we have listeners from around the world, Ireland, England, all across the United Kingdom, Mexico, Brazil, South Korea, South Africa, a large following in Australia. We have New Zealand, just Germany, just too many countries to list. But we really, really appreciate each and every one of you and taking the time to listen. It's just been awesome and motivates me to continue to tell these stories. And I also want to give a shout out to 1096 Crime Chicks, the true crime podcast, and their host Amy, who reached out to me and we spoke this week, and I've got to listen to their podcast. Very interesting stuff, y'all. If you get a chance, give it a listen. But that being said, again, we appreciate each and every one of you, and let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about 2 murders committed allegedly by the same perpetrator. These are the murders of Nelson Henson Jr., who's a 33-year-old white male from southern Livingston Parish. That's in South Louisiana. And remember, in Louisiana, we are geographically defined by parishes and not counties like the rest of the United States. So Nelson Henson was from South Livingston Parish, which is geographically, it's basically almost swampland. The second murder is that of Mario Canessa, and he was from the suburbs of New Orleans. And so on January the 25th, 2007, I was working as a detective with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, and I was actually off duty. It was a Friday. I remember it. I was at home, and I got the call from one of the detectives who was working a case on a missing person, that missing person being Nelson Henson Jr., and they called me in and said, "Hey, Woody, look, we've been working this case on Nelson Henson, who's been missing for a week, and we have a guy that's a suspect, and we've arrested him on a narcotics charge, and would like you to come in and talk to him and see what you can find out about the case." So I drove to the town of Livingston, the Livingston Parish Courthouse, where my office was located, and my office was separate from the regular detective's office. It also doubled as my polygraph exam room, and I am a state licensed and board certified polygraphist, not to be confused with polygamous. Although I love my wife dearly, I certainly don't want more than one of her. I was the first polygraphist ever for the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. So I went to my office and met Detective Ben Bourgeois, a good strong Cajun name, Bourgeois, and he came in and told me facts of the case as you knew them up to this point. And what happened was Nelson Henson Jr. had gone missing the week prior, I believe on January the 19th. He was at the Bayview Bar and Tavern, which is a local establishment on the waterfront. It's just a small swamp bar, if you will, and it's in southern Livingston Parish, and it sits on Coyell Bay. It's right at the foot of a bridge, and it's a big gravel parking lot. On the other side of the bridge is the Amite River. So it sits right where the Amite River meets Coyell Bay. And Nelson Henson had been at the bar with his friend, Chris Allen David Hunt, who went by Chris. And they had been drinking, and actually they were roommates at the time also, and had been for about a month. But they were drinking, and witnesses reported that Chris Hunt sold Nelson Henson Jr. some Xanax, and that they got into an altercation with each other in the bar and went outside and got into a fist fight. And there were many witnesses that saw the fist fight. Somebody called the cops, and the nearest responding agency was the town of French Settlement Police Department, which is a very, very small town, no red lights or anything like that. Basically, just a small community, and usually they only had one officer on duty at a time. And even though the Bayview Tavern was covered by the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, when the 911 call came in, the closest officer to respond because southern Livingston Parish is so rural, was the French Settlement Police Department. And the witnesses stated as they heard the sirens coming towards the Bayview Tavern that everybody went back inside, and that night was the last time anybody saw Nelson Henson or Chris Allen David Hunt. So Bourgeois said that Chris Hunt had been living with Nelson Henson on his couch for approximately a month since Hunt's wife had kicked him out of the house. Henson was nice enough to let him stay on his couch. And he said that even though they had witnesses to the fights, no one had seen Henson since. And Hunt, they brought him in to question him about it. And he said Hunt was really stoic and non-emotional about it. And Hunt had been still at Henson's apartment for the week that Henson had been missing and driving back and forth to work in New Orleans every day. But didn't seem concerned that Henson was missing. And he said that they arrested him on the drug charges, not because they weren't true, but basically they wanted to get him in and question him about Henson's disappearance. And that during the questioning, Henson just said, I don't know anything about it, haven't seen him. I left him at the Bayview after the fight. When we heard the cops coming, I got in my truck and I left. And I drove to the town of Livingston to the gas station that was open at the time. It was called the Super Stop. And he said, and I bought a Mountain Dew and some cigarettes, and I went home. Never saw him again, never heard from him. And he said, Detective Bourgeois told me, he said, Woody, this guy's a tough nut to crack, but we asked him, would he take a polygraph? And he said, yes. So I told Detective Bourgeois, I said, look, I'm going to play it like this. Y'all have already gone at him pretty hard. And he said, yeah, we cranked it up on him pretty good. And he didn't give us any response. He just sat there, et cetera, and wouldn't change his story. And we even gave him the out of, it could have been some type of accident, et cetera, and he won't budge. I said, well, bring him in and we'll do the old classic good cop, bad cop. I said, bring him in handcuffs and I'll take it from there. I told Bourgeois that I would turn on the baby microphone. That's what we had at the time. We didn't have any closed circuit television or anything like that. We literally had a baby monitor. I think it was a Mattel baby monitor, which I kept the speaker part in my office, and they would sit in the other detective's office and listen to any interviews that I did. So I turned the microphone on, and he brought Hunt to my office in the handcuffs, et cetera. And I told him, I said, why is he in handcuffs? And Detective Bourgeois said, because he's under arrest for narcotics distribution. I said, well, I mean, you bringing him to me for a polygraph and to take the handcuffs off of him. This is ridiculous. I don't understand why you're doing this. Why are you treating this guy like this when I'm about to interview him and give him a polygraph if he even consents to the polygraph? Detective Bourgeois took the cuffs off and left the room, and I shut the door and I told Hunt to have a seat, and I introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm Woody Overton. I'm a detective here for the sheriff's office, but I'm also a polygraphist. And I said, I want you to know, first of all, I don't have anything to do with this case, Mr. Hunt. I said, I don't care what you do or have done or haven't done, et cetera. I said, what you have to do today is be 100% truthful with me. Okay. I'm not sitting in judgment on you. And if you did something to this guy that's missing, then we'll figure it out. I said, if you didn't, and you tell me you didn't do it, then I'm going to believe you 100%, unless when we get done taking the polygraph, the instrument shows otherwise, and then we can talk about that. I said, but I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't get more money if you pass the polygraph or if you even take the polygraph. And I said, but I don't want to be crude, but I don't care. And he's just kind of sat there looking at me. And Hunt was, I'd say he was close to 6 feet tall. He was skinny, kind of plain looking, nothing remarkable about him. But he had a stare, a look on his face. And, I have hundreds of thousands of hours of interview and interrogation, and I'm watching him, reading his body language, et cetera. He wasn't being defensive. He didn't cross his arms or look away from me when I was talking to him or anything like that. He just sat there kind of like a bump on a log, like he really wasn't concerned about anything. So I told him, I said, Mr. Hunt, I said, can I call you Chris or what do they call you? I know your name's Chris Allen David Hunt, but what do they call you? And he said, they call me Chris. I said, can I call you Chris? He said, yeah, you can call me Chris. I said, all right. So I told him, you can call me Woody. I said, we're going to be here for a while, and I want you to know that this is a non-custodial interview on my part. I said, I'm not here to try to trick you or anything like that, and you're not under arrest by me. I said, in fact, you have polygraph rights, and under Louisiana law, you have to give me permission to give you the polygraph test. I said, and those polygraph rights are, you don't have to answer any questions that you don't want to answer. You can stop the polygraph. If you choose to take the polygraph, you can stop it at any time. You can say, hey, I'm not taking the polygraph. I said, they can't do anything to you for refusing to take the polygraph. And he just sat there looking at me. And so I told him, I said, listen, if you can, my advice to you is, if you can pass this test, take the test. If you can't pass it, don't take it with me, because you're not going to cheat me and you're not going to beat me. And he just sat there looking at me. I said, so, I mean, do you want to take the test? And he said, yes. So I took out the polygraph rights form, which explained everything to him, and then a standard Miranda, Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office Miranda rights form, and consent or answer question form. And we went over everything, and he signed and said that he understood, and he gave me permission to begin to conduct the polygraph examination. And so I asked him, we went through the beginning part, who I was, and then I started to ask him about himself in the pre-test interview. And I said, tell me about yourself, man. And he said, well, I'm Chris Hunt. And I said, I mean, are you married? He said, I was married, or I guess technically I'm still married. He said, my wife kicked me out about a month ago. I said, okay, and where'd you go? And I said, you know what? I said, Chris, let's just do it like this. Paint it for me like a movie. Tell me why I'm here, because I act like I don't know anything, because basically I don't. So you tell me why I'm here, and then we'll take it from there. And he said, okay. He said, my wife kicked me out about a month ago, and Nelson Henson has been a long-time friend of mine, and I went to him and asked him, could I stay at his place? And he said yes. And he said, so I've been sleeping on his couch for a month. And I said, well, do you work? And he said, yes, I work. He said, I'm a ship welder. And I said, well, ship welders make good money. I said, yeah, you haven't gotten your own place yet? And he said, no, I'm saving up my money. I said, but you do make good money, right? And I said, where do you work? And he said, I work at the Avondale shipyard on the other side of New Orleans. I said, okay. I said, well, what I know about that type of welder, it's a good craft, it's a good trade, and you make good money. He said, yeah, I do make good money. He said, I travel around the world. And I just got back a couple months ago from Aruba, where I was welding there for about 6 months. I said, okay, so you're staying at Nelson's house, and what happens? He said, well, we went to the Bayview last Friday night, and we were having drinks and everything, and I wanted to leave, and Nelson didn't want to leave, and so we got into an argument, and I told him, let's go outside and fight. And then he said, we went outside, and we fist fought in the parking lot until we heard the sirens coming from the police car coming down the highway. And he said, and I didn't want to get in trouble. He said, so I jumped in my truck and I left. He said, that's the last time I saw Nelson Henson.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey y'all, let me tell you about Mochi. Mochi is a telehealth platform that connects patients seeking medication-based weight loss treatment with board-certified doctors and dietitians to help them determine the best treatment options to accomplish that goal. Mochi's program is completely virtual, meaning you can access their services anywhere in the United States and you will be meeting with their team online. You deserve doctors that listen. Mochi is dedicated to providing holistic, patient-centered care that prioritizes overall well-being with the goal of transforming how weight management is approached. Mochi Health takes a holistic approach to weight loss that includes visit with board-certified doctors, nutrition consultations, and medications delivered to your door. Science-backed medications including GLP-1s like Ozempic and generic compound versions, affordable and accessible, regardless of insurance coverage. With Mochi, their dietitians work hand in hand with your medication to create personalized nutrition plans that fit your lifestyle. Reach your weight loss goals with science-backed, FDA-approved GLP-1 medications and support from real doctors and guidance from registered dietitians and help with making easy and sustainable changes to achieve results. Y'all have seen this. My wife has done it. My brother-in-law has done it. One of my best friends is doing it, and it really is an amazing process that works. So get started at joinmochi.com and use code RLRC to receive $40 off. That's joinmochi.com and use code RLRC to receive $40 off and let Mochi help change your life.
Okay. And yeah, that's simple enough. I said, so the polygraph is pretty straightforward. You know, I'm going to need to ask you a couple of relevant questions to determine whether or not you're being truthful about leaving Nelson Henson at the bar. I said, I can't ask you, did you hurt Nelson Henson, because you already said that y'all were in a fist fight, and the purpose of getting in a fist fight with someone is to cause them pain, no matter how temporary. I said, so the first relevant question, it might sound kind of harsh, but it's really why you're here and what the detectives want to know. And that question will be, did you kill Nelson Henson? And he said, no. I said, all right. And I said, the second relevant question will be, in addition, it's just a little add-on to the first relevant question. And that question will be, did you kill Nelson Henson that night at the Bayview Tavern? And he said, no. That's all right. And there's only one more relevant question that I need to ask you, Chris. I said, that is, do you know for sure where Nelson Henson is now? And he said, no, I don't. So I said, okay, are those questions fair? Do you think they're fair and just for me to ask you that? And he said, yes. I said, I want you to understand, I'm not trying to trick you or anything like that. I agree, those are fair and just questions, and that's the reason basically why you're here for a polygraph. And he kept sitting there just looking at me with his dead blank stare on his face. And so I asked him, I said, not Nelson, I kept calling him Nelson. And I was kind of doing that on purpose to try to get a reaction out of him to judge it when I say his name, right? Because through my experience, if you can bring the victim back and foremost into the perpetrator's mind that they killed. Generally, they'll show some facial emotions or something if they have any remorse. So I said, Chris, I said, do you believe me when I tell you that, I'm here working for you to clear you on this polygraph, and this is not some kind of trick? And he sat up and he lifted both his arms up and outstretched towards me, and he put his fists together, and tattooed across his fingers, and I'll never forget it, tattooed across his fingers were "Trust No One" on each of his knuckles. TRUSTNOONE. And he put them together and like almost in my face. And I was like, what are you trying to tell me, brother? I mean, he said, I don't trust anybody. I trust no one. That's the motto I live by. I said, okay, I get that. I said, it takes all kinds of people to make the world go around. You don't trust anyone. Fair enough. I said, but I'm not going to ask you any surprise questions, et cetera, on this test. And I'm not here to harm you. I'm just here to get to, to clear you if you're innocent and get you past this. And he said, okay. And so I went through the explanation of how the polygraph works, off your body's physiology, et cetera. And we reviewed the rest of the questions on the test. And then I attached them to the instrument. And I asked him the questions. I did what we call charts. I did 3 separate charts where I would ask the questions once, and I would stop and take a break because he had the blood pressure cuff on his arm and it'd be a little tight. And so I'd let that artery rest for a moment. And before I asked the questions the second time, I would readjust my instrument to whatever his body's physiology was doing, or basically to balance out his nerves. Because as the test goes along, he would either get more or less nervous depending on whether or not he was telling the truth. Then I asked the questions the second time, and that took the break, and then I asked the questions the third time, and then I stopped, and I concluded the test. Why? And I told him in the pretest, I said, look, I don't score it as it's going along. I'm simply making sure the charts are staying straight and that you're not trying to cheat, et cetera. Well, I lied to him. I've done thousands of polygraph tests, and I could do the math on the results as the charts are actually going along. But I tell examinees that I don't score it as it's going along, so they're not sitting there trying to look at me and see if I'm making any type of facial expressions when they make answers to the relevant questions. So I called Detective Bourgeois and I had him take him out for a few minutes, and I sat down. I did put a hand score on it, and he failed miserably, or showed deception indicated to all 3 of the relevant questions, and including, did you kill Nelson Henson, or did you kill Nelson Henson at the Bayview Lounge that night, and do you know where Nelson Henson is now for sure? And so I told Detective Bourgeois, and I said, look, I'm gonna do my post-test interview and try to get something out of him. So I had him bring Hunt back in and sat him down. And I said, look, buddy, I said, straight up and honest, you failed, and you failed miserably. And he just sat there and he looked at me. I said, there's no doubt in my mind that you killed Nelson Henson Jr., and that no doubt in my mind that you killed Nelson Henson Jr. that night. And there's no doubt in my mind that you know where Nelson Henson Jr. is now. I said, on all 3 of those relevant questions, you showed huge deception indicated in your responses to the questions. I said, your body doesn't lie. Just like I told you in the pretest when I was explaining how the polygraph worked, et cetera, there is no lie detector in this room. All this is an instrument with some components that I attach to your body, and I'm taking a picture of the inside of your body and your physiology and how it responds when you lie. And I mean, you can't deny it. And he sat there. He didn't deny it when I told him he failed it. I said, you've got to tell me what happened, Chris. I said, you got to tell me what happened, so I can help you out. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, okay, Chris, I said, do you remember the Polaroid cameras when you put the camera up, you take the picture, you push the button, the film comes out. You sit there and you wave it around for a second, and you blow on it, and the picture comes up clear. He said, yeah, I remember those. I said, well, if I give you a Polaroid camera right now, and you take a picture of me, you take the picture, it comes out, you watch it come out, you blow on it, the picture comes clear, and if you were to look at it and give it to me, and I look at that picture and I say, that's not me. I said, that's just as ridiculous as you telling me that you didn't kill Nelson Henson. I said, your body doesn't lie. Your physiology doesn't lie. And you can't cheat it and you can't beat it. I said, so tell me what happened. And he looked at me and he paused for a second. And he picked up his hands again and he put them together almost 6 inches from my face, where the trust no one was staring me dead in the eyes that was tattooed across his knuckles. I said, okay, Chris, you can put your arms down. I said, I get it. I said, you don't trust anyone. I said, but I don't get a gold medal for getting confession out of you. I don't get anything. I said, matter of fact, it's a Friday night. I'm not even supposed to be here. I said, I'm going to take my time with you and because I want to help you. I said, I don't believe you're a monster. I don't believe you're a bad guy. I think that's, you and Henson got into a fight and probably something happened and it was an accident and maybe he got hurt, something like that. But you know what happened. I said, you have to tell me what happened and let me help you. I said, I can be your go-between between those detectives out there, but you got to tell me what happened. And he looked at me for a minute and he was dead silent. I said, Chris, help me help you. And he looked at me and he said, I killed him. He said, you're right. I killed him. I said, okay, tell me about it. He said, I don't remember. He said, I shoved him down on some cypress knees and I killed him. And cypress knees are stumps that stick up out of the ground that grow at the base of the cypress tree. And it's what allows those trees to grow in the water. The knees are actually how the tree breathes and takes in whatever it needs to grow. So that they're like sharp, protruding stumps, if you will, but stumps with points on them. And I said, so, Chris, you're telling me you killed him. You're telling me you shoved him down on some cypress knees. I said, but what happened then? He said, I don't remember. I said, okay. I said, how can you not remember? I said, if I shoved somebody down and I killed him, I certainly would remember. I said, you got to tell me what happened to Nelson's body. I said, he's been missing for a week. I said, his family deserves closure. I said, I get it. You're in a fight. You didn't intend to kill him, but his family deserves closure and you got to help me out. He said, Mr. Woody, I don't remember. And I said, all right. And so I thought for a moment and I said, you know what? I said, do you agree that I got the polygraph test right on you, that you showed deception indicated to those relevant questions? He said, absolutely, I agree. He said, I know I killed him. I know I killed him that night. He said, I don't know where he is now. I said, okay. I said, well, what I would like to do is run another polygraph test on you. And it's a different type of test, Chris. I said, on this test, I want to ask you some questions, and I want to have you say no to every one of the questions. So no matter what the truthful answer is in your mind, whether you remember it or not, I want you to say no. I said, so what I'm going to do is ask you different locations where his body could be, Nelson's body could be, and I want you to say no to each one of them. And he said, okay. So I reattached him to the instrument and I made the questions up. And the first question was, did you bury Nelson Henson's body? The second question was, did you put Nelson Henson's body in water? And I asked that one because we're surrounded by water down here in the swamp, right? And third question I asked was, did you dismember Nelson Henson's body and distribute it in different places? And that was it. And so I asked him those questions on the test, and I had him say no to each one. And he came back and he showed deception indicated when he said no, that he did not put Nelson Henson's body in water. The polygraph test showed that he was lying, or he showed deception indicated to that question. So I stopped the test and I told him, I said, listen, it's just as obvious, just like it was that you killed him. It's just as obvious that to me that you're lying when you say that you did not put his body in water. And he stopped, he looked at me and he said, you know what? He said, you're right. He said, I did put him in water. He said, I remember taking his body and pushing it in the water. I pushed him face down, and I actually watched him float away. I said, okay. I said, where did it happen? He said, I don't remember. Mr. Woody, I don't remember. So I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you know what? This guy is not lying. At least that he knows of. He's not straightforward lying to me, right? I believe he had some, at this point, I believe he had some type of mental issue. And so I told him, I said, listen, Chris, let's do another polygraph test. And this time I'm going to ask you about different bodies of water around here that you could have put Nelson's body in. And I'm going to call the areas of water out by name. And I want you to say no to every one of them. Just like we did on the other tests. I don't care what the truthful answer is. I want you to say no. And he agreed. So I asked him, started the polygraph test, and I asked him, I said, did you put his body in Coyell Bay? And that's the bay that is on one side of the Bayview Tavern. And he said no. And I asked him, did you put his body in the Amite River? That's the river that's on the other side of the bridge from the tavern. He said no. I asked him, did you put his body in the Blind River Canal? And he said no. I said, did you put his body in the Diversion Canal? And he said no. And as an afterthought, when I was making the questions for the test, I was, thought about other bodies of water that were close to us. And I thought how he said he drove to New Orleans every day. And so in his driving to New Orleans, I knew he had to drive across the I-55 bridge in between Ponchatoula and Laplace, Louisiana, where I-55 meets Interstate 10 in Laplace, just outside of New Orleans. So I asked him, as an afterthought, I said, did you put his body in the water at Manchac? And he said no. At the end of the test, he showed deception indicated to putting Nelson Henson's body in the water at Manchac. So I told him, I said, Chris, you put his body in the water by Manchac. And he stopped and he gave me that dead stare.
Hey, y'all, you want to set your child up for success? Is your child struggling with a specific subject or need help with the subject? Is your child ahead, not getting challenged enough in class? Well, IXL Learning is an online learning program that enriches your homeschool curriculum. It offers practice in math, English, language arts, science, and social studies while adapting to each child, meeting them where they are. Plus, IXL encourages students to become curious and empowers them to choose how to learn. Look, we homeschool our son. No doubt about it. He's more of a visual learner, and we use IXL, and Cindy teaches him, and there are so many different benefits to the program. It adapts to exactly what he needs in different areas. So IXL is the perfect supplement to your homeschool curriculum. IXL offers interactive practice problems, educational games, lessons, and video tutorials for every topic you're teaching at home. It's easy to use, time saving. Everything on IXL is organized by grade, subject, topic, and subtopic, making it simple to find activities for the exact skills you're covering. IXL offers instant feedback and explanations of new topics as kids use the program. Kids can explore any topic in any grade level. They aren't forced into a single learning path like they are on other programs. If you're homeschooling your child because they were falling behind or because they were too far ahead like our son, IXL is a great program to help them get the exact support they need. Kids love IXL's positive feedback awards and educational games. IXL is trusted by 15 million students worldwide and has proven to improve performance in over 75 scientific research studies. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Real Life Real Crime listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/today. Visit IXL.com/today to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. And don't forget, Real Life Real Crime listeners get 20% off. Y'all, we really do use this product, and it's been a godsend.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. He said, you know what, Mr. Woody, you're right. He said, I remember now. I said, okay, tell me about it. He said, I'll have to show you. Well, now by this time, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, right? We've been testing for hours and in the interview. I said, you telling me that you can take me to where his body is right now? He said, yes. He said, it's off the 55 bridge. Now, the 55 bridge, when I say that, y'all, this is like a 20-mile long bridge between Ponchatoula and the Place. It's all raised over swamp. And it's all water underneath. There's 2 exits when you get on it from Ponchatoula, Louisiana, from the time the high-rise bridge starts to it exits in the Place. There's only 2 exits that he could have taken. And that is the Man Shack exit, which is about halfway down, and that's where the North Pass runs in between Lake Maurepas on the right-hand side, which would have been closer to Bayview Tavern, and then Lake Pontchartrain, which is on the left-hand side and borders New Orleans. He said, I can take you to it. And I said, all right. So I went and talked to Detective Bourgeois, and we shackled him up, handcuffed him up, put him in the back of one of our unmarked vehicles, and we make the drive. And it's a pretty significant drive. It's probably 30, 40 minutes from the sheriff's office to Man Shack. And so we get to Manchac, and he's there, and he hasn't said a word the whole time. And when we get to Manchac, I said, okay, we're coming up on Manchac. He said, keep going. So we passed Manchac. There's only one exit in between Manchac and Laplace, which is probably a stretch of about 10 miles, and that's the Ruddock exit. It's spelled Ruddock. Now, the Ruddock exit is famous for everybody in New Orleans that kills somebody that wants to dump a body. They drive to Ruddock, because off that exit, there's nothing. There's not a shack. There's not a street light. I don't even know why there's an exit there, except for there's an old highway that runs off of it. I mean, there's nothing there. People steal cars and take them out there and burn them, or burn their cars out there for insurance reasons, because there's no cops, period. I mean, if you see a cop out there, it's going to be a trooper that's working speeders on the high-rise bridge. So we keep going towards Ruddock, and we're coming up on Ruddock. I said, Chris, we're coming up on Ruddock. He said, keep going. Now, this night, y'all, it was cold, and it was pitch black. It was cloudy. There wasn't a star in the sky, and there's no lights on this bridge. You can't see anything. If you turn off your vehicle headlights, basically you're on top of the swamp, and you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face, right? So we keep going, and there's only like 5 miles left before Laplace. And I said, Chris, I said, where is he? He said, keep going. He said, not yet. He said, I'm going to tell you exactly where it is. So we kept going. And then he said, okay, start slowing down, slow down, slow down. He said, right here. And where we stopped was at the 6 mile marker. Okay. The bridge from the beginning to end is every mile has a mile marker on it. And the 6 mile marker is in between the Ruddock exit and the Laplace exit. And it's probably a 40-foot drop from the top of that bridge to the water, to the swamp below. And he said, right here. And so we stopped, and we got him out, and I put my arm through his arm, because I'm thinking this guy's going to jump off the bridge and commit suicide or something, right? I mean, but by this point, I just, the old cop senses in me. I know he's thrown off. He's got some type of mental issue. And so we get out. It's pitch black, and I said, Chris, how can you tell me it was right here? He said, because I drove it every day to work, and on the way back and on the way there, I would look to see if his body had popped up yet. He said, and I dumped him right here at the 6 mile marker. So I got on the phone with my dispatcher, and I had him call St. James Sheriff's Office. We're in a whole different parish now, right? Actually, we've gone through 2 parishes. We had to drive through Tangipahoa Parish into St. James Parish. I said, call St. James and ask them, have they found a body here in the last week? When they connected me through to St. James Dispatch, and I asked the dispatcher, I said, hey, I'm Woody Overton, the detective who lives in the sheriff's office, and we're looking for a body out here. We have a guy that confessed to dumping a body at the 6 mile marker. Have y'all found a body this week? And she said, yeah, they pulled a body out at the 5.9 yesterday. Well, that's a 1/10 of a mile from where Chris was telling me he had dumped the body. And with those are tidal lakes and swamps, and the tide comes and goes, and there's some current flowing through. So highly probable, right, that his body could have floated in a week's time, could have floated or moved a 1/10 of a mile. The dispatcher said that a man from Mississippi that morning had been driving northbound towards Mississippi from Laplace, and he said he was looking over. The bridge is split. You have a northbound lane and a southbound lane, high rise, and both of them have 2 lanes each, right? So the bridge is split, and you can see swamp in between, and then swamp on both sides. And this man from Mississippi said he was driving north, and he was admiring the swamp scenery, looking down, and he saw what he thought at first must have been a floating sack of potatoes. And then he pulled over, and he looked down, and he realized it was a body. So he called the St. James Sheriff's Office. They came out, that day, that Friday, January, I think it's 25th, and took the body out. And I'm like, and the dispatcher told me, she said, look, the autopsy is in the morning in Jefferson Parish at the coroner's office. I said, sweet. So I put Chris back in the vehicle. We take him to the jail, and Detective Bourgeois and them put him back in his cell, etc. And I went to Jefferson Parish with Detective Chuck Watts, and for the autopsy the next morning. It was at 8:00. Now, we've been up all night. We get there, and the reason Jefferson Parish coroner did the autopsy is because St. James was such a small parish. They didn't do their own autopsies. They don't have the facilities, et cetera. So everybody that dies or murdered or suicide or what have you, anybody that an autopsy has to be done on, they send them down to Jefferson Parish, which is actually kind of like part of New Orleans. It's a big metropolitan area. So we get there, we sign in, and we meet the St. James detectives, and then we meet the forensic pathologist, the doctor. And so we suit up in the suits, and we go in, and there's the black body bags on the table, and we're all masked up and everything, and I'm ready. And each body bag is sealed. When they put the body in it, they seal it with a identification tag with a number on it, and it locks. And you have to cut that seal at the beginning of the autopsy. It maintains the chain of custody of evidence. It's so a defense attorney can't come back later on and say somebody planted, DNA on the corpse or what have you. So anyway, they cut the seal on the bag, and they open it up, and this body had been in the water for a while, right? And they open it up, unzip it all the way down, and I'll never forget it. I'm looking at it, and now Nelson Henson was a 33-year-old white male, and I'm looking at the body of like a 5'6" Hispanic male. Definitely not Nelson Henson. And then they rolled him over. The body is very badly decomposed, swollen, and most people have to put mentholatum under their nose before they go in on an autopsy on a floater like that. And it never bothered me. I didn't have to do it because I always breathe through my mouth, and the smell doesn't bother me. But it was bothering the St. James detectives, and one of them was kind of gagging. And I'm looking at it, and when they rolled him over, he had a barcode tattoo across the back of his neck. This Mexican male did. And so I took a picture of him, et cetera. I said, look, y'all, this isn't my guy. This isn't who we're looking for. This isn't who my guy confessed to killing and dumping at the 6 mile marker. And I said, we're going to have to go back and talk to him and see what he says. So we drive back to Livingston and get him out, bring him back to my office, and I sat him down and said, Chris, I said, we went, I told you they found a body at the 5-9, and I went to the autopsy this morning, and when they opened up the bag, kind of got a surprise, and he kind of looked at me with a puzzled look on his face, and I had taken some pictures, digital photos, and I had printed them out before Chris came into my office, before they brought him from the jail. And so I laid out the pictures of the Mexican male in the body bag, and you could still see the facial features, et cetera, but you definitely could see the barcode tattoo on the back of his neck. And I said, Chris, I said, who is this? And he looked at it for a split second. He said, I killed him too. I said, all right. And I said, Chris, what's his name? He said, I don't know his name. He said, but I killed him. And I said, okay. I said, exactly how many people have you killed, Chris? And he looked at me with that blank look on his face, and he said, I really don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, don't know what else to say here. I said, where'd you kill him? And he went into the story how he killed him at another bar down in southern Livingston Parish, which he ended up changing that story later on and blaming the Mexican male's death on Nelson Henson, conveniently. So after that, Livingston Sheriff's Office and St. James, etc., conducted an exhaustive search of the area around the 6 mile marker, and Nelson Henson's body was not found. It was found a week or two later by some fishermen about a quarter of a mile from the Bayview Tavern, and where actually, where they had the fight. And when Chris said, I shoved him down on some cypress knees, and I grabbed his body and I shoved him out in the water and I watched him float away. Evidently, he was actually talking about the spot right there at the Bayview. So fast forward, Chris Allen David Hunt was found not guilty, and I don't believe he was ever tried, even though he was charged for Mario Canessa's death out of St. James Parish. Again, I was already gone, working as a criminal investigator too for the Louisiana State Police by that time, so I didn't really keep up on those cases anymore and what happened, because I had so many current cases that I was working. But I thought the story was interesting, and I hope you enjoyed it. I guarantee it's the only time in my career that I ever had a bad guy not only confess to one murder, but 2 murders, but on a dark, cloudy night led me to the exact spot where they pulled out another body just that morning. And I go to it's the only time I ever went to an autopsy in my police career where it was the wrong body, and that a guy confessed to killing both of them, even though later on, like I said, he changed, Chris Hunt changed his story and blamed the death of Mario Canessa, on Nelson Henson. He said Henson killed him, and he helped Henson dispose the body at the 6 mile marker off the I-55 bridge. But that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And real quick, we're going to do our rating on the Sphincter scale. And as you know, or you may not know, if you haven't gone to the website, there's a clip on the website, www.realliferealcrime.com. It says Sphincter scale, and it explains the Sphincter scale, where I rate the bad guys on a scale from 1 sphincter to 10 sphincters, 1 being somebody who pretty much shouldn't even be in trouble almost, to 10 being someone who deserves the death penalty. I've given this one some thought, and I really believe that Chris Allen David Hunt is thrown off mentally. I believe he is, I don't know what type of disorder he has. It's certainly part psychotic, I would guess. So it doesn't excuse his actions, but I firmly believe he killed both of them. And that, so I would give him an 8 out of 10 on the Sphincter scale. He's definitely an asshole, and he's definitely a killer. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we really, really appreciate each and every one of y'all. And let us know what you think. Send us a message. Let me know what you think that Chris Allen David Hunt should rate on the Sphincter scale. Thank you. Until next time, we appreciate you. www.realliferealcrime. And I'm your host, Woody Overton. Thank you for listening.
Want no sugar in my coffee.